Welcome back. It is Friday. It is the B2B Power Hour. Morgan, how are you today?
Good morning. I am good. I am excited. It's another Friday. Hello, everybody who's joining us.
I thought you were going to do
Welcome
the roller
to
coaster.
what?
Hello, and how are you today? And we've all sat through one of those presentations. You're like, why are we going through a yo-yo or a
Yeah.
roller coaster?
Or they just sort of sit there and they look at their slides and they're like, okay, today we are going to talk about project management. And you fall asleep.
And as you turn around reading the slides
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, they only read from the slides. Goodness, that is not what we do around here. So,
Thank goodness.
oh my god, I don't think we would survive that. I don't know. I couldn't do that every Friday.
No, I've been to enough engineering meetings where I had somebody take me through a nice, beautiful 240 slide PowerPoint and read
Whoa.
everyone with 10 point.
How are you
Anyways,
alive? How are you alive? I would
I don't
die.
want to talk about it. I just want to get to the question of the day.
Okay, if you're here, hello, drop a hi in chat. We'd love to see you. If this is your first time, we like to start with the question of the day. Just warm up chat. So we want to hear from you the answers to these questions because it's an all important Kickstarter. So Nick, what's the question of the day?
Question of the day is something I tease Morgan about all the time is, do you just like roll out of bed right into work? Or are you like to take it slow and like have your coffee and like ease into the craziness of the day?
It's a great question.
Throw in the comments. Let's get a discussion going.
Yeah, do you
I
just
know
roll out
that
of bed?
Morgan's really hit or miss. Although you've
Hey,
gotten better.
I've gotten so much better these last few weeks. I used to be the habitual roll out of bed. I mean, this is definitely something that
Right onto
happened.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. I think as a result of the pandemic, honestly, just like, working from home, it was so easy to just sort of like start, uh, have some coffee or some tea, and then just like get to work. And then suddenly it's 6 p.m. and you're like, oh, what? But the last 3 weeks, I've been very disciplined. Um, I see Blake had commented 6 a.m. cardio, eat breakfast, coffee, get to it. I'm pretty much close to what you're doing, Blake. I'm up doing some sort of workout and then like having space. And it has helped so much. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
I
something about
totally
going to the gym.
underestimated. Oh, yeah. And also having space. For me, it's like mental space before the day. Like Wait, you're supposed to not work all the time, Nick? I know, it's so strange.
Did you send that in a memo? I think I missed it.
Yes, it is a formal aligned memo. Nick, no longer working before 8 a.m., okay?
my
I see
my
a
my triple O.
I
I'm
see a
sorry, you've
lovely
reached me
mix.
outside of
See a lovely mix of coffee right into it. Coffee, gym first, mix, gym first. Love it. I love Stephanie. Hello. Thanks for watching us from your bed today. That's great to have you here. Nice casual Friday morning. Oh, Nick, how about you?
I try to be consistent on going for a run in the morning because it's just amazing how much clearer I am. You just
Mm,
get out there, do your thing, try to forget that I'm running, and don't feel like I'm running out of time, and then you're set for the day. But there's something about just having a coffee and starting the morning with some reading.
mm.
And I found that, funny enough, it's not industry stuff. It's something completely different that I find that works the best for me, or else it just kind of bogs me down first in the morning.
Totally. I can't do any sort of like professional reading. It's got to be fiction or it's something personal development focused. Agreed.
Or Pups
Uh,
Coffee work. Hell yeah.
love
I'm
that.
in.
It's great. Well, continue dropping in answers to that in case you're here with us. We'd love to see your answer to the question of the day. But Nick, we are talking about booking meetings today.
Are we now?
I I mean, I don't know. We just kind of slapped together a title, right?
Is this like a marketing source, so I still have to call and actually do all the work, or is this like
Oh
a
no.
real deal? Just kidding.
Wow, that's some hot stuff to any marketers joining us today. No, I believe I think we should talk about prospecting. I doing it sales led as a sales leader or as a business development person, what you're doing to book meetings. So where do you want to start, Nick? What is the important place to begin this conversation?
I think the biggest thing, and any marketers, please go in if you want to chime in the comments and tease me. You're more than welcome to. But I think it's knowing. Kellen actually said it. Knowing why you're booking a meeting, I think is the first part. With when you're in doing enterprise prospecting, a good part of it is fact gathering, qualifying the company, and then quantifying the problem and building that value hypothesis so that when you reach out, you're not just another person doing the I'm amazing. I'm so amazing. You don't realize how amazing I am. So let's book a free meeting for me to go and even take more of your time to tell you how amazing I am. It's like a bad ex. All they
Mm.
do is talk about themselves and tell you that you're wrong. Like, I think we can all get away from that. So once you know why you're trying to book a meeting and what the process is, that really makes it easy. But the other part is, how do you structure your day?
Mm.
So I want to just touch on this really quick, and then we'll dive into like the actual 5 strategies that we run all the time that work. But
Hmm.
I think it's really important to go and talk about how to organize very quickly a prospecting power hour. So I notice a lot of reps, they'll pick up the phone and they'll just go, and then they'll have a drink of coffee, and then they'll go pick up the phone, and then they'll go on the CRM, and then they'll pick up the phone, and then they'll see a LinkedIn comment, and then they'll lose themselves in the feed for 17 minutes. And it's a really vicious cycle of context switching.
Mm.
And it doesn't allow you to do your best work. And so the very simple way of doing this is a prospecting power hour is actually 2 hours. Ironic, I know.
Ironic. Yeah, hold on now. Are you misleading us? Is it a prospecting power double hour? I don't know.
It was a valid effort.
It was an effort. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
But
Points for effort.
what you got to do is you got to set yourself up to work really well in that hour. And so what you're doing is I take the first 30 minutes to go and build myself a list and then clean it. Scrub
Hmm.
it, make sure you have everything you need so that you can just dial, or you can just I personally don't use prospecting power hours to email. I send that for later, but I do social and I'll make sure that it's set up for that channel. What do I need to know to do good outreach? And once I'm done, I try to get a list of about 25 to 50 individuals, which is a lot of, and it sounds like a lot, but you're usually reaching out to 5 to 10 people per account. So it's not very many accounts. A lot of reps I talk to only actively work 30 to 50 accounts max. So you got your 30 minutes of building a list, you got your hour of your actual prospecting hour. This is where the money is made. And this is where process pays off. Is you just be consistent. Consistently doing good outreach pays off, not maybe not right just that moment, but it also carries over as you're doing this. With it builds momentum. And so after you're done is you take those last 30 minutes to go and set yourself up for success later. What happened? What is the next steps for all those accounts? Do you need to move them to a new list? What are you doing? And
Hmm.
I can tell you guys one thing that really helped me: prioritize the people you're already talking to. Who you're already in conversations with, start with them every morning. Really keep that moving,
I
and
I
then
like
move to everything else.
I like Kellen's rule that an hour is 60 minutes and a power hour is 120 minutes.
It's like the new
Exactly. I like
baker's
it.
dozen.
Yeah, it's the new baker's dozen. Oh man, I love that. um, it's really interesting you bring this up because as we've been doing more prospecting and we've seen comments sort of come in about this, it is so the cost of context switching is so severe. And I feel this, and it's hard to really pick up on it when you're used to it. I've noticed this a lot. If you're used to picking up the phone, doing a few dials, jumping into LinkedIn, responding to some emails, jumping back and forth, looking at whatever, we're sort of that feels normal. But then when we have structured our time like this, it is crazy how fast that hour flies by and how productive that hour becomes because you have that process. And I don't want to underestimate one thing you brought up, which is beneficial to me, and I know for both of us, but especially for me, is that first 30 minutes of preparation allows you to not context switch later. You're doing the upfront work, you're building the list, you're cleaning that list, you're making sure you have all the information. It's sort of like, in cooking, mise en place, where you do all of your prep work. So when you actually get to cooking, you've already chopped the onions and minced the garlic and have your vegetables ready and have the broth by the side if you're making a soup. So by the time you actually get to cooking, you don't have to continue cutting, chopping, prepping, and all the rest of it. And it doesn't feel as frantic. It feels like you're just cooking, basically. And that's the same principle here. Allows you to do that hour really effectively. Stephanie has a good question.
I'll say Jacob Tuner has a good question that leads into it too. Prospecting or lack thereof or consistency in prospecting isn't felt right away.
Hmm.
Depending on your sales cycle and your sales process within your org, it's anywhere from 30 to 180 days where it shows up because there's a delayed reaction. So even though you're like, well, I slacked on prospecting today and yesterday, what's the big deal? It's
Mm-hmm.
momentum. This is where it's felt. And so to bring up Stephanie's question, because this is really good, is when you say start with people you're talking to, does that mean people you're already reaching out to or people who you're already responding to you? Great question, Stephanie. It's actually the people that you're already having conversations with, especially in enterprise deals. It's not a one and done. God, I wish it was that easy. Everybody would be in enterprise sales. But it's
Mm-hmm.
how do you have really good conversations and keep it rolling? And so I prioritize people that are already in conversation but haven't booked a meeting. And then next, I'll do referrals or like hot inbound leads. And then after that, then I'll move to people that I've already talked to but haven't had a conversation with. And last but not least is just who else is on the list.
New conversations. Yeah.
But you can even break these up. Like first thing in the morning, I'll continue conversations, go on social, whichever one, but I do not switch channels. If my power hour is calling, just calling. If my power hour is social, it's just social. You can break it up into 30 minutes if you want to do like social commenting and then social like connections or DMs. Like you can break it up that way, but you want to do a minimum 30 minutes, just consistent one channel and just do it an hour at a time so that list carries you through.
Mm-hmm.
Always prioritize the people you're already talking to because you're just continuing that conversation, gathering more information, and getting closer to book that meeting. Because sometimes your value hypothesis is off. So you're just updating. You're like, shoot, like my guesstimate was wrong. And so I had to go and like tweak until I got it there. So that's why you
Yeah.
continue the conversations first. And then, of course, referrals and hot inbound, there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason, there's trust. They trust you. Quick way to earn trust is to delay that and leave them in the void going, so
What do we do?
what do we do?
And actually, what I was going to bring up was this gut check that you and I talk about, but I don't think we've ever talked about on the Power Hour before. Is the gut check of how many conversations am I doing that are ongoing versus how many of my conversations are new.
I don't think
And
I've ever talked about that out in
no,
public.
but it changes the way I think about prospecting because I think if you scroll through LinkedIn, you see a lot of people talking about new, 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 new. How do you get the new person in the door? But in reality, if 10% of your conversations are ongoing and 90% of your conversations are new, and that persists over a week or 2 weeks, woo, it sounds
Yeah.
like it's time to rework your messaging and rework the way you're doing outreach or rework the list or that's that gut check to structuring your time. It's that feedback loop after your power hour, that last 30 minutes or even at the end of the week to say, was this effective? Was gosh, I lost English there for a moment. And what I can't say it.
It happens. It's okay.
Is
It's
what I
marketing.
am doing, hey, watch it. Is what I am doing effective? That's what I was trying to say. And the way you can check that in Nick's process is by looping back and seeing, am I doing a lot of ongoing conversations, or are they all new? And I think on the flip side, though, there's a danger, right, of having too many ongoing conversations and not enough new conversations, right, Nick?
Do you know what it tells you?
Hmm.
So I messed this up miserably when I first started, and it took me way too long to pick up on it. And I realized that when I was carrying too many conversations, I wasn't necessarily begging for business, but I was looking for reasons to qualify,
Hmm.
and I wasn't actively disqualifying. It's okay if people say no, you can always come back. But when you're begging and pleading and knocking at their door every single day and there's no reason for you to be talking, that burns relationships.
Ain't that
On the
true?
flip side, if you don't have enough ongoing conversations, either you're just not starting enough new ones, or you're jumping the gun and you're trying to book a meeting too fast, or your messaging and your delivery is off.
Hmm.
So it's a balancing act. That's why you should never run prospecting power hours back to back. They should always be a 10 or 15-minute takeaway. Go for a walk is my favorite thing, and think about the calls and relive those moments. What is one thing you did really well? What is one thing you could do better? And think over the key accounts that were hot. What can I do to move this forward? And think about it from their perspective. And that just changes the whole game, because now you're building something I call momentum. And so when we're talking like 50-50 in conversation versus new conversation, 50% of what?
Hmm.
This is the one thing I took I just don't see anymore. And I don't know if it's because we don't really because we split up the SDRs and the AEs, that we're not focusing on the full cycle. So it's a little bit different. But okay, so now say whoever you're feeding, the AE or even yourself, whoever you're feeding these meetings to, what is their opportunity to close ratio?
Hmm.
What is their ACV? And how
Their
many
deal
deals
size. Hmm.
do they need to hit quota? Why does this matter? Because this is where your number to build momentum comes from. So let's say they have a 5-to-1. So for every 5 meetings you book, they close one. Cool. Okay. Now, with their average deal size, they need about 5 deals a month to go and hit target. That means, with that math, 5 times 5, you need 25 active deals or active opportunities for them to hit target. So if one closes, you actually need 5 more.
Hmm.
It's it's strange math, but what you're doing is prospecting isn't day by day, it isn't but week by week. Your prospects don't care about your time. It's that continuation of momentum over time is what makes you win. Prospecting power hours are what you do day by day. Tracking your numbers will tell you where your time is best spent. I found that myself, that social in the morning, phone or email or another channel in the afternoon, and then social in the afternoon allowed my social from the morning to work and me to follow up with it in the afternoon. And then midday was more active live conversations in real time. Play
And
with it. You'll figure it'll be something different for you, I'm sure.
yeah, and this is where if you're this is the nice math actually. I was going to loop back to something about running this against smaller accounts where your or smaller deal sizes is if you're not trying to break into enterprise and you're running something in SMB or maybe small commercial, small mid-market depending, is your those numbers, the opportunity to close ratio and the deal size or the number of deals they need to hit quota is going to change the number of activities or ongoing accounts that you need to be in conversation with at any one point in time. And that is allows you to structure these power hours in a meaningful way. Because now it's not, let's be honest, we've both built lists. But if you don't have a list that's built with intention and you also understand what you should be looking for in terms of results out of that list or why that person is on that list now, why you're contacting them now, some of that intention behind it, and then linking it to, okay, what are my numbers? Why am I doing this? Why is it this many lists on this account? Why do I need to reach out to this many different people? We lose sight of it, and that's fine. We've all lost sight of the overall objectives before. I certainly have. And the danger that that poses is that we just do more instead of doing it better.
Or
because
we just keep it continuous because we
yeah.
don't really have a benchmark for ourselves. And
Mhm.
what I found happened is when I started setting this benchmark of, so say taking those numbers, if I have 25 active conversations, that is a bare minimum for the person I'm feeding to hit target. But if I also have 25 new conversations being started at any given time,
Hmm.
they have the opportunity to go and exceed quota because honestly, shit happens. But this is so big because now you're not bound by activities. Now you're just building momentum. This allows you to out step out of the hustle, which, as you guys know my story, almost killed me. I wore my burnout as
Mhm.
a badge of honor. Step out of that hustle and work smart. Because then it's like, okay, if I have a bench of 50, 25 in conversation, 25 new, who can I replace? So now you're trying to disqualify and always put the best in that bench. And when you have a hot roster, that's a whole bunch of opportunity that any AE will kill to have. And think about that discipline of doing this. If you carry this and you get that discipline and that you have that momentum built, when you step into the AE role, you have a pipeline of new opportunities, self-sourced.
Mhm.
And you understood the context for reaching out, you understand the business case and the value hypothesis used. Now you jump right into disco and you kick ass.
Right, and I just wanted to be really clear because we've dwelled here for a little bit. This is what makes prospecting work. Like and I don't want to be dismissive of tactics because like tactics are ultimately important. And yes, the way you're delivering your message is important. The channel you're selecting, of course, it's important. Where are your buyers going to pay attention to you? That's what we all need to ask. But tactics alone, just getting better at one tactic, is only going to take you so far if you don't have a repeatable process, if you don't
Process is
structure your
what
time.
wins.
Yeah, because then, and I mean, talking about burnout and talking about being strapped to the activity metric rocket, if your only focus is on what that number is and you're not linking some of these things together, it's not about day one of prospecting. It's about day 37 because you hit day 37 and you're just going to feel toast. You're going to feel fried if you don't have a process that supports you in doing these things every day. Because
And
otherwise, it's just more noise. You're just
it's
going to, more data, more overwhelm, all the rest of it.
you won't even see progress either. Building
Hmm.
momentum allows you to reward yourself for building momentum and having a stamp of progress so you can actually report back to a sales manager or an AE. And honestly, if the AE is like, hey, like you're giving me crappy leads, I was like, actually, based on the qualification you gave me in the business case that I built, you just suck at closing. It's not me, it's you. But you can't, honestly, you can't defend your own ground if you
Hmm.
don't have the data to back it up because then there's no proof.
Hmm.
But when
Hmm.
you have momentum and you're building and always getting a little bit better by dialing in that bench, those, you know, based on, like I was saying, those numbers, if you keep replacing them better, there's no reason why they shouldn't succeed. And same with you.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're at that point, Morgan, where it's like, okay,
Yes.
cool. So now I got this
Right.
prospecting power hour. I know that I need to go and have that power hour in one channel.
Hmm.
How the hell do I build lists?
Yeah.
What are those? How do I book meetings today? What are those
Hmm.
quick wins that I can go and jump into, leave this power hour, and go kick some ass and get people talking? So what is your first one, Morgan? What would you do first?
Hot and ready leads. It's
Hot
like
and ready leads. Is this like going to Little Caesars getting some
I was
pizza,
just
or
about to
like
make a Little Caesars joke. It's like hot and ready
$5,
out of the oven.
$5?
Which, by the way, is really bad pizza. I don't know why it's so popular.
Because
I,
it's easy. I don't know.
I guess so. So here's the thing. In another context, I think we've called these Princess Leia leads. It's the same concept, which is help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. They are hot and ready to be helped, right? They are ready for outreach. And chances are this is going to be a small percentage, a very small percentage, maybe 3% of your overall prospecting list or even of your overall addressable market. The reason you can start here, the reason you're working with hot and ready leads is because they're fast with a good message. They don't, you know, we've all been there. You pick up somebody's kind of dragging their feet. Nah, nah, nah. You know, maybe I'm interested, maybe I'm not. None of that conversation happens with a hot and ready lead. It's all about, yeah, actually, I need that. And we've heard cold calls like this before. We've participated in them. We've gotten emails like this. We've sent DMs like this where it's the right time with the right person with the right message and it just hits and they're like, "Yeah, I need this. Where can I
Uh,
book a meeting?"
we were actually just talking about that.
We
Yeah,
were
actually, like
we were just talking about this. So, Nick, how do you identify hot and ready leads?
the
Where do
easiest.
they come from, basically?
There's a couple different sources.
Mhm.
Number one is the easiest one. If you're active on social and building that brand awareness, and also just being consistent with your prospecting, people come inbound.
100%.
Prioritize them. That is
Mhm.
one list in the hot and ready category that you need to
Pizza, pizza.
get her done.
Uh-huh.
Make sure you're moving quick on these people because they are problem aware and they are ready to fix it.
Mm.
There's a sense of urgency. Capture that and be supportive. Number two is a little bit later on. So there's intent. How do you know that somebody is trying to solve something? They know the problem, but they're not quite sure exactly what's the right solution to fix it. Well, they're going to be searching. So you might have tools like Sixth Sense. You might be using Sales Navigator. It might just be on LinkedIn and people are searching your profile.
Mhm.
What are some of the triggers, some of the things people can do that will show you that they're interested in learning more?
Mhm.
Prioritize those because that context matters because that's going to go and determine how you reach out. If somebody looks at your profile and you reach out to them and be like, "Hey, would you like to buy my shit?" It doesn't address the context in which you're reaching out.
Mhm.
"Hey, I saw you looked at my profile. Curious, do you just hate salespeople or are you looking to get better at sales?"
Uh-huh.
It addresses the context and it makes it fun. Like, you have
Didn't you
fun with
use
it.
that the other day, by the way?
Yeah, I did actually.
Okay. When you told me that, I was like, "Wow, that's bold. I like it."
The anti-pitch
Yes, the
works.
anti-pitch.
We'll have to talk
Uh-huh.
about that another time, but that
Yeah.
works really well. And
I
the other one is triggers, just simple
Yes.
triggers. And so when you get sick,
Mhm.
before you're like down for the count having that flu and it's kicking your ass, there's symptoms. There's a warm up to the crap.
Got a
Like,
scratchy throat, little
eyes might
sniffly,
be sore.
yeah,
Yeah.
tired. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But we ignore it because it comes on slowly. And so unless it moves fast, it's like, what is that saying about the frog that you boil in the water? If you turn it up
Oh.
slowly, it'll just boil. That's
Mhm.
exactly what happens to our prospects. Is it happens so slowly they don't see the symptoms. But how can we capture those symptoms and triggers that we can find really easily
Mhm.
and move forward? So I know one that everybody uses is, oh, they raise money.
Mhm.
So now that they raise money, what changed? That's a list. Okay, somebody just got a promotion. What does that title say about how their roles and responsibilities are going to change
Or
that
the
you can
job
help with?
description. Mhm.
Or maybe they hired a brand new title that says that the business, the way they're thinking about the world going forward has changed. These are all triggers that you can capture that say, like, and with these pains, there's an expiry date. If I broke my leg, I don't think about it forever. No, but seriously, when you
That's
scratch yourself
true.
or something hurts, or you go and work out and you like beat your body up and it hurts for a few days, you think about it while it's sore. As soon as the pain goes away, it's
Don't
gone. It's
think.
old news. That's our
Mhm.
survival instincts is to get us moving on. So those triggers, 60 to 120 days, and you're done.
Mhm.
They raise money, they probably have a solution within the first 30 because people are reaching out. So think about those different triggers that show that there's an event, something that just before they hit the ditch, as Jordan Crawford likes to say. Or we joke about just in the nick of time. Like,
Right.
how do you reach out just before it's about to happen and you tell them, hey, I just saw this. This means that you guys are about to go and hit the ditch and you need to hit a hard right now,
Mhm.
or else it's going to cost you a lot. But you have to say that in a way that is meaningful. And those are the hot and ready leads.
Mhm.
The ones that are coming inbound so that you may have done outbound and then they came back, or your content worked or whatever. Next is you have intent, which is like it's a type of trigger,
Mhm.
and then just the triggers.
Mhm.
If you have each of those a separate list, it's really easy to move through those lists because I make them fun too.
I
If
know you
anybody's
do.
seen my list names, it's like we just went through crazy growth. Don't know what the hell to do now. Oh my god, help. But that'll be like the context because what I try to do is I try to write the list name to describe a situation. So when I
Mm.
reach out, I'm speaking to the situation, and I might
Mhm.
even when I do this, I find that works even better is the situation to the persona. So if it's in the sales manager's eyes or the director of sales or marketing, CS, write
Mhm.
it the situation in their eyes. So when you go to your prospecting power hour and you've cleaned your list and you're going, try not to chuckle as you're doing your outreach. Which
Stephanie had asked if the anti-pitch worked, by the way.
it was a pattern interrupt.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And so I threw the opposite of what they expect. And it's kind of the same idea of like, hey, most people aren't looking for sales training right now
Mhm.
because they think they're good. It looks like most people aren't looking at LinkedIn right now because
Mhm.
they think that it's a waste of time. And, by the looks of your company, you feel that way because less than 10% of your people are actually doing that. And of course, you're hitting target. So there's really no reason for us to talk.
It's just that ruin, like Justin Michaels' ruin. Mhm. Yep. I love
You
it.
got to be careful because you got to be respectful.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
it's,
That's it.
but what it is, what I took is from stand up comedy.
Mhm.
When you know the context behind something and you say the opposite, you're making fun of the truth, but you're doing it in a non-threatening way. It could come back to bite you, but I'd rather get a response than nothing.
Right.
And I wasn't actually pointing anything at them. I was only pointing at the situation. So it's something to
Right.
try. But yes,
Yes.
it got a very quick response.
Yeah, I'm sure. Um, so the last thing, can I just asterisk some of the hot and ready stuff? So when it you're like, "Whatever, Morgan, shut up. We have more to cover." Uh, if you're if you're running outbound with triggers for a smaller deal size, so back to the math that we were talking about previously, which means you probably need more active conversations at any one point in time than somebody that's selling a higher deal size, just because that's how your quota is going to work and what your business is set up to do. Sometimes it's not going to work to personalize or excuse me, to spend the time personalizing to every single lead, to every single persona inside the account. And this is especially true if you're under like 10 grand ACV, but particularly under 5 grand ACV. If you're selling something pretty small in B2B, like you've got a lot of time, or you don't have much time to get to a lot of people. So one thing to consider is, as you're looking through your triggers, is that trigger isn't necessarily something um, specific to the persona, but maybe something in the company level, so that if you have a good list, if you spent the time building your list properly, so you're talking to probably the right stakeholder 80% of the time, that the message then can be personalized to either a pain or a trigger that's happening at the company or happening in the industry, that allows you not necessarily to template your messaging. Like, you still should have a framework that you're building within, that you do make alterations for, but it's going to reduce the amount of time that you need to go through the whole list, right? Will Allred's sage advice always was build narrow lists, because if you build for example, a narrow list, and you sell to CFOs and directors of finance at companies experiencing a certain rate of growth, suddenly the messaging to those CFOs can be probably pretty similar. It's not going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be probably pretty similar. And so you don't need the same amount of time to figure out what you're going to say on the phone, to figure out what you're going to say in your DM, to send the email, as you might if you're going after both larger deals and you have more time, or you're going after something really big and you really need to throw that spear to get into the enterprise. Just wanted to note that.
Yeah. You're going personalized based on the industry, the
Hmm.
account, or the individual. If the juice is worth the squeeze, you work your way down.
So what's next? That was play number 1, hot and ready. Pizza, pizza. What's number 2?
One that is quickly forgotten is the
Mm.
closed but not lost follow-up.
Close
People
but
leave
not
them.
lost.
Well, what happens? Closed lost could be that, hey, their contract was up for somebody in 2 years. Now is time on that closed lost, but did that get captured somewhere? Closed
Mhm.
loss is a gold mine for a lot of companies, especially if they've been selling for a while, if you're not at a startup. And so something that's at least 6 months old, up to even 5 years old, go through and look at the reason that they lost when you're scrubbing that account and then go from there. So, hey, we didn't have this product feature. Sweet, our product roadmap had that in. We got it now. So, like, new product update. Hey, we got that stupid thing you really wanted and the reason you didn't buy. So now it's time to go and jump on it. There's your list name
Mhm.
and go have fun with it. But that's all you do. And look at who they talk to and look at who on the close one side they normally talk to. Maybe there was a discrepancy. Maybe something changed. But go through all your closed lost and have a recovery round and try to split them into, like you said, very narrow lists of why you're trying to recover them. Hey, our product is better now. Hey, our pricing is different. Hey, your company is bigger. Or try to go and put them into some type of narrow box and then lead with that assumption. It's a value hypothesis. And so you're going to test that and you're going to learn really fast if you're right or you're wrong. But honestly, that's okay because that's all prospecting is you're trying to go and figure out that problem, a problem worth solving. And if you keep trying different things, you will find it. So close lost.
It's so underestimated. And we see this with so many of our sellers where it's sort of like closed loss is a black hole. It just sucks everything in and nothing ever escapes in most companies. And it's just not true. There's so many reasons why people don't buy. One of the most obvious and underestimated is the timing was wrong. And the timing can be wrong for all the reasons Nick just listed. They didn't have budget, they weren't the right size, they didn't have the interest, leadership wasn't on board. Man, if there are so many deals that can be resuscitated or recovered if the timing is right. And it's just going back through, seeing who's there. I remember when I was running my own practice pre B2B Power Hour, closed lost was a gold mine for me over about a 6-month period because enough back to the pain has an expiry date 60 to 120 days, right? So the pain is going to shift, the circumstances are going to shift. We already have credibility in their eyes, so over a period of time just continuing to follow up with the right people, not all at once, knowing the circumstances might have changed, generated a lot of deal flow and can for you too.
So just before we revive the dead,
Oh, is that
we're gonna
what's
go
next?
we're gonna go back to the clicky days of high school.
Oh, okay.
So when you were in the
Oh
know,
god, oh god,
you were
no, I
in the
don't want to go
know.
back to high
You
school.
knew all the gossip. You know who was doing what and with who and when. But what about your prospects? This is something I just don't see people do, and it blows my mind. You're like, so if you put your ear to the wall, what would you hear? Well, social media is a megaphone, and
Mhm.
people love to complain when something is getting in their way of progress. When I
Mhm.
can't get a promotion, when I'm working too long of hours, or a software gets in my way and I have to spend more time than I would like. Those people that are brave enough to say something out loud in public are problem aware. And the majority of them are doing it because they want it fixed, not
Hmm.
because they just like the sound of their own voice.
Mhm.
And so when you're doing a prospecting power hour, if you start to go through your, oh, I'm having a brain blank. So when you go on your website, you have your testimonials. Go through your testimonials and case studies.
Case
They
studies, yep.
always have quotes.
Mhm.
So look at the first quote about what their original situation was. What words do they use to describe the pain? What do they bring up as the problem? Go on Google, go in Twitter, go get trender.ai, go
And
on
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn and search that phrase. Put quotation marks around it so it gets the whole thing. Go find those posts. I hate cold calling.
Mhm.
My boss sucks. My sales manager doesn't deserve a job. Like honestly, find these sayings because it's showing signs of pain.
Mhm.
The way they communicate it might not be right, but that's not the point. The point is that they are describing their pain, and it's up to you as the professional seller to connect the dots and reach
Mhm.
out in a way that it's meaningful. These people love to help you build a business case.
Yeah, because they're in the thick of it. And they, and they don't wake up thinking about software. They don't think about the problem or the solution you're solving. They're thinking about the problem they have. And so maybe it's not, I hate cold calls, but like, has anybody figured out a way around, right? That's one of my favorite questions I see out on LinkedIn a lot, because it's a longer explanation. It doesn't really show up on Twitter. But has anyone figured out a way around, or figured out a way to connect, especially if it's like a RevOps thing, or it's like multiple tech stacks coming together, or they're looking to their network for advice, basically. They're out there, they're saying, I got this problem and I don't have a damn clue how to fix it. Who has done this well? And I do this, by the way. Maybe not always in my posts, but
It's like
certainly, certainly in DMs, I ask people this. Just the other day, I was like, "Hey, who do you know that has solved this?" So, finding those conversations is a way to get in front of people. But Nick, you probably aren't going to pitch them, right? You're not going to, like, how do you approach that?
I think the hardest part is getting them to really understand the problem and have
Mm,
an open, transparent conversation about it. They might know what it feels like, but they don't know the root cause. But why this is so important is 90% of LinkedIn is lurkers, people that never show up in the comments, never say anything, but actively consume. So if somebody's saying this out in the public and you comment, be like, yeah, sometimes sales managers are frustrating because they don't give you the support you need to feel like you're actually making progress. So now what you're showing is understanding. First step, show understanding. And then if you want to be bold, ask a question to keep that conversation going, or just leave it as a statement, because if they want to talk as a statement, people love to fill the silence. Hey Morgan, marketing can be
mhm.
frustrating because they give me leads and they don't work.
Yep.
And if that's important to you, you are going to comment back. If it's not important, you don't feel the need to fill the silence. So this is just understanding psychology and how we work as human beings. And so it's show understanding to continue the conversation. No, what has your manager done?
Yeah.
What would you like to see your manager do?
This is where humor can be really useful too. Cause like, again, making fun of the truth. And this is one thing I do love doing in comments, is cracking a joke about the state of affairs. Like, oh yeah, we've all been there, right? And have that sort of continue the conversation and ask that question in a joking manner. Because now it doesn't feel like you're being interrogated, basically. It feels like you are just having a conversation. You're like, oh yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, I I call it coffee house rules. How would you approach this conversation in a coffee house?
It's You're basically becoming intriguing.
Hmm.
I always look at it like you're talking to your best friend. You wouldn't go, "Hey, Morgan, dash. I was looking at your strategic outreach through your very vocal comments on like talk like
Spare me, please.
but it's like honestly, it's like bro talk. I always joke
Yeah,
about it, but it's
I
like how
know.
would you talk to your friend? Like, "Morgan, seriously? Your sales manager's doing that?"
Gosh.
I think we need to have a talk. We need to have a serious talk.
Hmm.
That's it's building that understanding, showing commonality and like that camaraderie,
Hmm.
and then being that voice that they can trust. What happens though, as soon as somebody responds and they create a dialogue, you get trust through association.
Hmm.
And this is where comments, the social listening has a magnifying effect. 5 to 1, 10 to 1, it just depends. Because the algorithm loves comments and it'll spread that pain.
Yeah.
But you're also spreading the solution. And what'll happen is you'll have this comment feed, and all of a sudden you'll get going back to our hot and ready leads, is you'll come back in the afternoon and you're like, "Hey, I saw your comments with so and so, and I'm having the same problem. Can I get your help?"
Happens all the time.
And people you've never interacted with, you didn't know were following you, and a lot of the time they're like, "Yeah, I've been following your content for the past like 2 to 3 months, and like this just really jived with me."
Cool.
But consistency to
Mhm.
process is what makes this happen.
Yep. All right. So we've gone through hot and ready leads. We've gone through the closed lost follow up. We've done finding social listening basically for problem aware posters, people who are complaining out there in the world. Now we have to revive the dead.
In
What are we
particular,
bringing back from the dead, Nicholas?
the MQL.
Oh,
That should have
God.
never been an MQL.
Oh, no.
Oh no. I can't even
Okay.
say it with
So
a straight face. But
I
like
know.
one one time, a long, long time ago, I went to get an industry report, and then
Oh,
they
no.
tried to sell me shit. But
We've all been
seriously,
there. Yeah.
so you gave your email for something, and it died a quick death because it never should have been marketing qualified. It was nothing qualified.
Right.
But what you can do is you can go through those leads and look at the source that they came in and tell a story.
Mhm.
And this is where your fun creativity you can just do. This is not some reason I put this towards the end is this is just something when you need a little extra or you just want to have fun, seriously, is like I know you downloaded or saw you downloaded
State of the
our
industry report.
report.
Mhm.
The last thing you want is somebody trying to sell you stuff when that was never the intention. But I found something interesting from that report that they never shared. Interested?
That's such a good breadcrumb. I love that, Nick. I'd immediately be like, "Yeah, I kinda remember that report, but, like, what?"
We're curious creatures. But how do
Yep.
you play into that curiosity, the curiosity that got them to download the report in the first place, or
Mhm.
got them to go and sign up for that email cadence in the first place? How did they get in there? Where was that contact information gathered? Take a guess. It doesn't matter if it's right. Somebody will tell you very quickly if you're right or wrong
The
in
good
one
news
power
is
hour.
people love to correct you if you're wrong. That is one. Oh, man, it's true. Don't take it personally if they're mean about it. It's not about you.
Once upon a time, you attended our event. It may or may not have meant anything to you, but you have never come back since.
Yeah.
There's your list.
Yep.
And so the more detail that you can build that narrative, that story that got them in that event is your outreach. Hey, you came to our webinar. I don't know about you, but it wasn't my favorite.
That'd be so good. I love that.
Professors, that webinar isn't always the
Uh-huh.
most entertaining, but I actually snagged some of the great bits from that show that I think are worth sharing.
Mhm.
Interested.
Kickstart that conversation. You're pulling somebody from the dead. The goal, you're not going to get a meeting on the first try. You're not going to get that. You're pulling them out of the grave. They need to be alive first before they become a meeting. So it's setting up like breadcrumbs or a trail of curiosity to try and get them interested. And especially if they're a poorly qualified marketing lead and they just died. Because, it's just
Did I ever tell you what I did a little while ago?
Oh, we don't have MQLs, so I'm interested.
So somebody had come. It was from. They'd come to an event, and they just never came to another event. But they were
Oh, okay.
in our ICP, so I did a
Yeah.
gift story because we were connected. And I was like, once upon a time, I came to the Power Hour. Then I show him running away with like people chasing, and then him stopping and looking and seeing nobody chased. I'm like, you ran, but nobody was chasing.
Mhm.
Where are you now?
What a great
All in gifts.
all in gifts.
And
That's
all he
amazing.
just did this rolling on the ground, laughing gift back, and he's like, "Well, that is one hell of a way to start a conversation."
Gifts are underrated on social and email, without a doubt. They're
It's just all you're doing is the key is tapping into a narrative, the
Mhm.
story they tell themselves, the inner dialogue, which makes great copy. Is you're just continuing that conversation. So try to step in their shoes. And honestly, this is my favorite thing to do when you go to a mall. You watch people walking and you try to go and tell a story of what they're doing or what they're saying to their partner. It helps in sales all the time. But I get paid to do it now whenever I do it for a sales motion. But you're tapping into that story and then you're putting it on paper or you're just continuing that conversation. And the funny thing is, even if you're not close, it's sometimes it's funny enough that they're like, seriously? Oh my God. You have too much time.
That's good. That's really good. All right. So after reviving somebody from the dead, um, it's just continuing that conversation. One thing I think especially on this one. I think this is true even in the social listening one, but especially reviving a dead marketing lead. I think we rush ourselves as sellers to try and get the meeting. And I think, and that's kind of back to the original conversation around activity metrics and how you're measuring success and all the rest of it. Because if you're not just having a conversation or connecting with somebody, they're going to probably smell the commission breath, right? They're probably going to pick up. And it's very subtle stuff, but we all pick up on it. When either over text, over email, on a call, whatever, you just hear the stuff. You hear the desperation, honestly, or you pay attention to the cues that sort of imply they're going to pitch you. Like I got a connection request the other day that I said, all right, I'm going to accept this and see if they pitch me because the little antenna went off. Lo and behold, they pitched me. So my intuition around this is good. We all pick up on those things. So on this reviving conversation, the goal is to genuinely connect with them. It's to have a good conversation. Like Nick, there's no reason to send 12 gifts after each other to a hot and ready lead. Like that's not the point of it. The point of it is just like kickstart the connection, get a conversation going. What's going on? It's a little more time intensive. And then just pace yourself. See where it goes. See where the conversation takes you. Dance that art of casual conversation. Because if you immediately try after they've gotten revived and come back and be like, hey, you want to have a meeting now? They're immediately going to shut down and they're dead forever. You're not going to be able to get them again. So
Chris Bogue, I really want you to take Pink's song. Can't remember if it's So What or Your Hand and turn that now. So what? You're an SDR. You have a quota. It's just you and that quota, or something play on that. But that's kind of what it feels like when somebody's got commission breath. They just don't care. And the first thing they're saying when you pitch them is like, "Hey, we are a world class, record leading bullshit, 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 bullshit." And the person's going, "So what? Why do I care?" That so what is what you're answering. Why them? Why now? But we promised. We promised the one, the only, the one to go and rule them all. So Morgan, what is
yes.
our secret? The one secret that we are going to
Oh,
share today.
the surprise play, the fifth one, the one to just close this out today.
Mm-hmm.
Referrals. An underestimated channel, actually, as a seller.
Not just referrals, but introductions.
Mm-hmm.
Frickin' LinkedIn even gave us a feature of like, hey, you and so or somebody on your team is connected to this person. So now, how can you use that connection to start a conversation with trust? How can you go and do the kind of the bounce back? Do you guys have a mutual connection that maybe, or a mutual like? Hey, I see that, both of us love Josh Braun. I really appreciate his storytelling. I was wondering if I could tell you a story.
Yeah. And
It's something that's playing into the narrative.
And let's establish some boundaries. If you are connected with somebody on LinkedIn and you have a mutual connection, but you don't talk to the person who's your mutual connection that you would ask an introduction for,
That happens.
don't do it. Don't
You don't know
ever
every
touch
one
that.
of your LinkedIn.
No, as it happens, I don't. The reason Here's the thing, and what Nick touched upon is so important, is trust. And the way to think about trust in this context isn't about whether you know the person, it's about your credibility. The credibility of the introduction.
Yes.
Credibility on social is the fundamental driver of your success. It's just how it is. And credibility, even if you're not on social asking for introductions, but you're using another channel or you're using a mutual friend or a mutual network or all the rest of it, credibility is going to determine whether or not the buyer is open to hearing from you, right? And whether or not you're actually going to get an introduction in the first place. So credibility is essentially 4 questions. Can I trust you? Are you a good person? Can you actually solve my problem? And are you as good as you say you are? Because if you're asking an introduction from somebody who you don't really know, they're going to introduce you in a way that shows they don't really know you.
Or
And
they
same
might do
thing,
the so what the so what
or,
introduction. Hey, so I
exactly.
was talking to Morgan.
And he asked for an intro to Nick.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get you two together. So
So
what?
what?
So what? Right?
No
And that's
context.
no context at all.
No narrative.
Right. And that's where, being active on social can be a competitive advantage because one of the buckets we recommend you build relationships with are your peers. And if your peers are either in the same role, the same profession, or the same industry, they can help get you introductions to other people. I like Kellen's comment using unique random celebrities on LinkedIn for this works well. It's another great example. And what Nick had connected over shared interests. I saw now, this is delicate because this has gone wrong for somebody trying to get to me, where they said, basically, I see that you and I both were in the comments on his post. What did you think about it? And it was a great conversation starter. And then they immediately jumped into the pitch. And I was like, God damn it. You couldn't have waited. You could have
But this
just built some more credibility, built some more trust.
but even
Anyways.
just slow your roll.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like a date. Why did you just ask her to marry you? You just saw her.
Mm-hmm.
That person, you got to slow your roll. You got to go into your qualification, but do it casually. Make it fun. You go
Mm-hmm.
and jump in and you're like, "Hey, I saw that you went like so and so. I feel like there was more than you put into that comment because it was out in public,
Yeah.
and I want the dirt. Dish." Like that's fun. And now it's like, yeah, I've noticed that people that have sales teams of like 10-ish people,
Mm-hmm.
that this is usually top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're doing is you're disguising your qualification,
Mm-hmm.
but you're having a good conversation. That's the key, is the conversation has to be good.
Yeah.
But just talk around that if they're not problem aware or they're not interested or you're not interesting,
It's fine.
it's
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 just not going to
done.
happen. It's a bad first date. It's just you're not going to continue dating. Though. It's
Move
just a
on.
bad. Yep, move on. Somebody
This
else.
but this goes back to the original point.
Mm-hmm.
Prospecting is all about process and consistency. Some of these are Hail Marys, but you
Yeah.
throw them in on purpose because you need to have momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Without momentum, you do not hit target and you're stuck hustling, getting nowhere. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what they say, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, what they call it?
Insanity.
Well, insanity prospecting doesn't pay bills.
No,
So,
it doesn't. No,
but it
I
does a great job of burning your reputation in a hurry.
yes, it does. So this is why referrals can be a powerful last resort in some ways, or first resort, depending upon how you're structuring your power hour. It's a great way if you have the right credibility, the right sorts of introductions and networks. A really great play. One interesting little tip. This is a little
Uh-oh.
power play from Morgan today. If you are talking with somebody and you're looking for an introduction, the way to phrase that introduction is, who do you know? Who do you know that most likely tie it to a pain instead of a benefit? Not who do you know that could use this, but who do you know that's also in the same boat? Who do you know that might, or, on and on and on? Because it's going to try, sometimes they're going to be like, I don't know anyone. That's fine. That's not the point, right? The point is to get them to think about, oh, yeah, do I know anybody? And that can help ease that brain expansion for them to get into another network instead of just thinking about the 10 most likely people in their life. That if you say, hey, I'm looking for referrals for this, the brain is going to think of the last 10 people that they talked to, and they're going to disqualify, and then you're not going to get anywhere. But instead, if you're asking, who do you know, it helps expand that a little bit. Just a little tip. in the right sorts of context.
We're in the final. It's the
We're at the end.
final countdown. Doo-doo-doo-doo.
It's been a singing day, hasn't it? You've really jammed out today. I like it.
I don't want to
Yeah.
listen to the recording personally, but
What
it's a different
what
story. But what freebie do we have for our wonderful listeners today? Any goodies?
I do have a goodie. If you go to b2bpowerhour.com and on the homepage, there is
Like your late night
uh,
DJ voice. You just put into.
just like jump right into it. um, if you haven't gotten this guide yet, it's something we've put together. It's how to book meetings on LinkedIn without pitching. You can find it on the homepage at b2bpowerhour.com. It's a bunch of fun. It's about as fun as we've had today. We've got gifts, we've got jokes, we got all the rest of it in there. And it is very tactical. It shows you how to book meetings on LinkedIn without pitching. So we put that together. Check it out if you haven't already. And Nick, you want to close this out?
Guys, with everything that's going on in the world right now, I usually say, it's 2022. It's no longer acceptable for people to suffer in silence. Well, you guys stepped it up. People are getting laid off. People are really struggling. People are dealing with burnout and being in the hospital. And your guys' DMs this week
Yeah.
hit home,
Yep.
really hit deep. And I just want to thank all of you for what a beautiful, amazing community you guys are, being with us and supporting us and giving us and bringing us on this journey with you. And that really means a lot. So, as you guys know, this is a community. If you
Mhm.
need help, you see people in these comments, reach out, tap into that narrative, make it count so that you can have a good conversation. But if you guys need help, reach out.
Yeah.
You mean the world to us.
Mhm.
And thank you so much.
We do these every Friday. If this is your first one, make sure to follow along if you're not already, and we'll see you next week.
See you next Friday.
Thanks.